friends, thank you for coming to our today puzzle practice. So we are going mainly to focus on the puzzles. However, yesterday I was playing, if you read my email, you know I was playing in a national league of Argentina. So I'm playing for San Isidro team. The ability to calculate and notice tactical themes helped me a lot. Okay, please let me know if the sound and video is good here. I'm streaming it on several platforms, on Twitch and 2 YouTube channels. You can also find this stream at ChessLand's website. There will be also a stream on Facebook. However, I cannot look for your comments at Facebook. Okay, so let's start. First of all, let me show my game. Okay. Okay, so e4, c5, it was Sveshnikov Sicilian or Chelyabinsk variation of Sicilian defense. My opponent played d5, knight b5. This is all these lines are theoretical. Knight goes there, b5, then knight d5 is possible, but instead I decided to take on f6, which is also a playable move. G takes f6, knight d5. Bishop goes there, bishop d3, knight a7, they try to undermine, so I take, queen takes, castle, castle, and this is where I played c4. All these moves are book moves. So the key idea is to fight for the d5 square. My opponent continued with f5, which is also a theoretical move. Then I played queen h5, provoking him to take. And in this position he reacted with rook b8 move. Once he takes, his rook is not hanging. I decided to take with the idea of f6. Of course, it's e4 with a threat of bishop b2. That's why I have to put this rook. Bishop b7 and then queen g4. Pressuring the pawn on e4 as well as maybe trying to take advantage of this pin with f6. And this is where this guy, I think, made a mistake. He'd better defend the pawn with this move, rook f2 e8, but he played king h8 move. I took. And then he played this move. How to deal with this position? My bishop is pinned. If I move the bishop, they take on e1 and it can be even a checkmate. What would you suggest? So guys, I'm waiting for your suggestions. What do you think should be done here? So who can tell me? Should I play f3? Or, well, if I take on b7, it's simply queen e1. and I'm down the exchange, so not sure that this is a good position. Well, maybe some of you know this line, and there are several games played in this position. However, I met it for the first time. Okay, f3. You mean f6 to deflect the black queen. So there are several things. First of all, f3 can be played. Well, the move that I played was f6, and that was not the best move. And I will explain why I played it. But first, let's talk about this move. If this move happens, I think they can continue with d5, maybe just. Yeah, why not d5? d5, you take with the pawn, and they take with the bishop. Why not? Or maybe bishop b2 actually. Bishop b2 also makes sense here. Now this knight is vulnerable. So the best move is actually bishop d3, and this is the line that I calculated. Bishop d3, queen takes e1, after which I play f6, and if bishop takes f6, I have a very nice move queen f5, which threatens the queen and this bishop. The only way to save, well, there are two ways to save, king g7 and this. If king g7 is played, which I consider to be the main line, queen h7, king f8, then I take, they take, and bishop f1. Here, with the king on f8 being more vulnerable, I think that white is much better and have good chances to play for a win. Comparing to another position when the king is on h8, the pawn on h7 is alive, and this rook can go to g8 and threaten g2. But if we go back and look at another option, which is bishop e4, then just queen f6, king g8, and the queen is hanging because there is no good discovered attack with the bishop. So this is where white is completely winning, and this is what I expected. That's why I wanted to play bishop d3, and then I wanted to continue with f6. But when I was calculating this line, after f6, I noticed that it's possible to play bishop h6. And then I decided, okay, queen f5 doesn't make sense because this time bishop e4 is attacking my queen. So I wasn't sure how to continue, and instead I would better search for a better option. But I thought that if I play f6 right away, they capture with the bishop, then I play this move they have to take, and then I play queen f5 and I get the same position but with the bishop already on f6, and this is how I can take advantage of it. But that was a mistake. In this position, they may not take, for example, in the game they played bishop f5 move, but a stronger move is rook g8, which I kind of missed, and later I found that after that I can take his queen, he takes mine, then because of g2 being hanging, I have to sacrifice the exchange, but this position is just slightly worse for white, and white can still draw the game, I think. So f6 was a mistake, but I was correct finding this idea with bishop retreating to d6 and queen f5. Of course, I should play bishop d3, and after this, f6 here, and then queen h3, for example. Why? Because I'm threatening the bishop as well as a mate. How do they stop it? Because if they just simply retreat with the queen, maybe to e6 or maybe to e5, what is better? Then I take there and I'm threatening with two checkmates. So they have to defend their bishop in such a case with queen d2 move. And then, while the queen is on the d file and e4 is no longer defending enough, I can play queen f5. So now they have to sacrifice the rook on e4 to avoid a checkmate. And then I would have to play this position. So queen b2, queen d3, Then what? Maybe what? Maybe b4. Knight goes there. The queen has a choice, but I think they would choose to take this pawn. And here the white's position is slightly better because almost all black pawns are isolated. Okay, so this was a tactical motive that I was able to recognize, but wasn't able to find how exactly to implement it, unfortunately. I just thought that with intermediate f6 move I solved the problem. However, luckily, after bishop takes f6, bishop d3, he played this move. I moved my queen to h5. The game continued with f6, c takes b5, rook g8, g3, and I managed to win the game with a nice tactical strike. But our today's section is not about the game analysis, it's mainly about practice, so let's start. Let's start with doing puzzles. I'll be explaining the logic behind my moves, and your task will be to suggest your own solutions. So they played king e7, they are threatening with a mate on h8. The king is vulnerable. I mean, the king on e7 is vulnerable, and that means that we may somehow take advantage of it. But let's decide how. Well, the most logical idea here is to continue with queen g7, because well, he goes to e8. And then what? Should we play rook f8 to distract the rook? Okay, then I think that we can do this move, rook to f7, threaten. What happens then? Then the king, if the king goes to e8, it's just a discovered attack. If the king goes to d8, then we have nice move queen f6. After which, the king has to go further to c8, otherwise it's a checkmate on e7. And then rook f8 works well. After rook f8, they cannot ignore it, they have to take with this rook, I take with my queen, it's still a check, they block with their queen, I can exchange the queens and capture the rook on h2 for free. So that is the solution. Queen f6. Well, if they went to e8, it was queen e7 mate. Now with this move I exchange the rooks. Well, you see, queen d8 would lead to queen takes queen mate. Here I take the queen check, I have to exchange because my queen is hanging, and after that I take on h2. Okay, let's continue. g3. g3 is a very dangerous move, because with this move I create a discovered attack. What else do I have? So this, they have to move their king to g2. Queen f2 would be a checkmate if not that knight. So I can liquidate this knight first with bishop takes g4. If they take with the queen, it's a checkmate. But what else they can do? They can pin my queen, but with this move. But then they can take their queen. That would be enough, I think. They can pin with their queen, but then it's bishop f3. Bishop h3, I mean. Okay, yeah, h takes g3 seems to be a good move. Well, let's double check if there is anything better in this position, but no, there is nothing, so take on g4. And, well, this position requires some analysis. g3, h takes g3, king g2, bishop to g4, what then? So if they don't take but continue with this move, I can actually win with this, rook h2. He goes there, and bishop h3 is a mate. Another option is to try to exchange the queens, but it fails because of bishop h3 mate. Okay, right. Let me close it. Let's continue with the next one. Knight c5, threatening my queen, which means that I can simply play queen c6 move. And then what? Maybe let's look if there is anything better. Okay, so I can take... yeah, if they block, I just take on d5, I think. Why not? And if they decide to move the king, well, let's check if there is anything better. So something like that, for example. No, this is a blunder. What else I can do? Knight c7 right away. Knight takes, doesn't make much sense. Yeah, seems to be the main move is this. They block. Now I can just simply take here and threaten to continue with such move like knight c7. But here I have to decide how to deal with rook c8. But actually rook c8 doesn't seem like a good idea. I just can continue with this move. So let's just take. Well, is there anything better? Okay, looks like not. Then I take with the queen. Interesting position. Let's do the analysis. So they play knight c5. What should I do? My queen is hanging and looks like there are no more moves rather than queen c6. Queen d5 doesn't make sense. Queen d5, it takes d5. So queen c6 is obligatory, then king. If the king goes to e7, I just think that I can take. Right? And knight d3 is not a big issue. So for example, king f1. Well, I don't think we should analyze such move like that because there is always d6 check. So let's say they take d6, he goes there, and then queen c3. So I'm able to end up with at least one extra piece. Okay, fine. Let's go back and continue with the next position. Here, bishop f7, they took. What do they want? What do you think we should do? Is it just a blunder or what? Who can tell me? Well, it's just a blunder and we should take, but I think they have something like this in mind. And if the king moves, they take our bishop. However, I still think that this is a blunder. Why? Because their queen is hanging as well. So we can simply take with our queen. And if they take our queen on g5, we take their queen. But they have an intermediate move, queen to b3 check. But we also have an intermediate move, bishop e6. So they have to take on e6. We take with the king, they take with the bishop. Let's count the number of pieces. We have 3 minor pieces, they have 2 minor pieces on the board. So they have only bishop on g5 and the knight on b1. Right, so this is a blunder. Let's take queen b3, right? But another intermediate move by us. So if they take, we have 3 versus 2. Good. Let's continue. Okay. Pawn endgame requires a lot of calculations. How do we win? Well, taking here doesn't make much sense because they promote first and maybe even with a check. And I don't think that, well, king b4, e4, king c3, e3, king c2, e2, king d2, king f1, and they still promote. So the only way for us to play for a win is to push the pawn to the g5 square, because this is too long for tempi, but they will already promote. Or maybe they promote this pawn in 3 moves. So g5, they push this pawn. We play g6. They may take or not. Maybe they play a3. We continue, let's say g7, e2, g8, e1. And we promote simultaneously, but it's our turn to play. So how to continue? Okay, let me improve this line a little bit. g5, e4, g6, e3, g takes h7, e2, h8 equals queen, e1 equals queen, and then I get a pass pawn on the h6 square, so I need to somehow exchange the queens. How to do it? Well, queen c3 doesn't work. Maybe I can check on a8 and capture the other pawn, but I think maybe not a winning position because of a perpetual check. So guys, what do you suggest? After I promote on h8, how should I play? Well, the other thing I have in mind is just queen f8. King moves and I take on b4, but... Well, yeah, probably it works, because every time I move the king, it can be a cross-check once the enemy king is on g4. Instead, I can also try with queen f6 move, and what happens then? So let's say he goes to g4. And how do I continue? Queen d4 maybe, who knows? The h7 looks suspicious. He can also go to g2. Okay, so I think I'll better take the pawn on b4. Let's make the moves and maybe we'll find anything better. Take, then h8 equals queen, e1 equals queen, and in this position let's once again search if there is a better line. So queen f6, maybe king g2. How can I exchange the queens in this position? Can play queen g5, let's say. Let's say they move back. Okay, if I would play this move. Okay, this is a mistake. Let's do it once again. Okay, so then it should be queen f6. But it's not clear for me. Let's analyze this. So after queen f6, where do they play? Well, if they play to the e file, I exchange the queens immediately. But what if they play, let's say, to g4? How do I exchange the queens? No, I didn't get it. Because I think my line with queen f8 is quite natural. What happens? Well, every time they go there, I take here, and if they decide to capture my pawn with a check, for example, with this move, this is a cross check, after which I overtake the initiative and can exchange the queens. For example, this, queen c5. If he goes somewhere else, then it's still okay. I can play, for example, this move. And after a series of checks, where to move? Queen c4. I am able to... Okay, no, then queen f5 actually. I may not win. Okay, then let me play... No, this queen a6. So this move... Queen f5. Okay, looks like it's a mistake. So I have to bring my king to d5. Let's say he goes back. And not h7. Okay. So they move there, I move there. They move back. How do I win? Well, maybe they move back to f4. No, that doesn't make sense. What's the point of queen g6? Well, I would even consider this, king goes somewhere and then h7. Because I think there is no perpetual check. I am able just to escape. If they play this move, I do this. So probably this is the solution. Let's look at what the engine says. Yeah, this is the solution. For example, queen e6 check, king c5, queen b6, king d5. And then I am able to escape and counter check with this move. So this, king d6, let's say they take, king c7, queen b6, I go there, but then I'm able to block. King b8, they do this. I play that, and if they check, I do this. No, it's a draw. So I have to do this move. They go there, aha, and then I promote, right. Got it. Well, that was a difficult one. Let's continue with the next one. Knight f6, so I actually enjoy positions with a lot of pieces on the board. Knight to f6, how do I play? Well, it's easy, right? Can you find this tactical pattern? I'm sure you can. So let me give you some time, because I've already found the solution. It's not so difficult. Yeah, thank you. It's just queen c6. Queen c6, they have to take, and then this is a nice mating pattern. Let's continue. So bishop g5, well, they threaten on my queen. I can take on c4 actually. What else can I do? Maybe I can take the rook. And if they take my queen, I may continue with bishop d4 check. But then they block, so it doesn't work. I can play bishop d4 right away, because this move forces them to move to h1, and after that I can take here, rook takes, but what's the point? What's wrong with this move? Nothing. I don't see the point of this puzzle. I can just capture on c4. What's your opinion? So looks like it's a complicated, well, no, it's not a good puzzle actually. So I can just take on c4 and I don't see any counterplay. So rook f5, no. Check on e7, what for? Check on f6, well, probably, but let's discuss it. So check on f6, take with the bishop, after which I can continue with, let's say, rook e1 maybe. They threaten to play queen h6. But again, I have always this check and queen f8 to defend. So let's take on c4, knight f6, okay. If I just move the king, they take on e8. Okay, let's capture. Okay, they take. Fine. Just don't understand the point. Well, if they take on f6, I can do what? Queen c5, queen f8 once the enemy queen is on h6. Maybe I would continue with queen c2 move. So they take on f6, I continue with queen c2 move. And if they do queen h6, then I check and offer a queen exchange one more time. Okay, let's continue with the next one. Rook a5, so it should be something related to the checkmate, because I realized that the enemy king is in a dangerous position. If I play this move, I get a check from behind. It's unlikely to work. Also, they can take on g5 and block the check on h1 with rook g1 move. So it's definitely not king e3. But what it should be, g4. It can be g4, for example. And with this move, I'm threatening with rook h1 and then g3. So let's discuss what may happen. King e1 may happen. Then I consider playing g3, but it seems to be quite slow. They can put the rook behind and try to sacrifice the bishop at a certain moment of the game. Maybe g4, king e1, g3, maybe bishop f1 immediately. And if g2, they just take. But I play rook h1. Well, it still seems to be winning. But okay, let's start with this move. Because after this move, the enemy king has only one spot, this. Then g4, and looks like he cannot escape from a checkmate. So rook h1, g4, and g3 is a checkmate on the next move. That's why he can only sacrifice the rook. Let's continue. So bishop b4, what's the point? It's just rook takes b4. But they have so much extra material. Well, I can also take the queen. Because if I don't, if I, for example, continue with this move, they play queen b6, and then I don't have enough material. No, I mean, they have enough material to compensate the queen, so I have to take their queen. And only then I exploit this pin. So here I have a5, I also have rook b4. I think rook b4 is fine. Even if they decide to move their rook to d1, I'm still fine with it. At least I can do this and no more checks. Knight d5, okay. So the first that comes to my mind is queen f2, king d1. What may happen after that? So queen f1, king d2. That doesn't make much sense. What, do I take the rook? Well, probably I just do take the rook, because their counterplay is not enough. Right, it's not enough. So queen f2, and then I just take the rook. So I was looking at such move like this, king h8, then bishop f7, rook takes f7, queen g6, but I can just take the rook, I can take the knight with my rook, and that's fine. Okay, let's continue. So I reached 2500, which is good. Okay, d5. So they wanna try to take advantage of the pin. They have so much extra material, but the king is more vulnerable than my king. And what is more important, it's my turn to play. So the first that comes to my mind, and which is quite natural, is queen c3. Because if they go here or there, it's rook a1 and they are in trouble. They lose only one, and it's also a checkmate. So queen c3, king e2 is the main option. I would love to use my bishop, but it's pinned. Ah, wait a sec. Queen c2 is just a mate, so what are we talking about? Of course, this is the solution. Ah, you suggested queen d4, but queen d4 fails because of this. So it's queen c3. And then I play rook to a1, and just simply capture only one with a checkmate. Why do they offer so simple puzzles? Queen e6. Okay. If not this queen, then I can play this move. What else I may notice about this position? Well, there is a kind of a pin that I can also potentially exploit. Well, I don't believe that bishop h5 is the best move here. Maybe there is something better. Let's search for it. So bishop c4 looks quite attractive, but then this, so I can play queen e7. King goes there, right? Right, and then I just bring my rook to f7. Threatening with a mate, they cannot defend, and they don't have any checks after my king escapes to h1. Looks like this is the solution. Well, after bishop c4, maybe they can play something else. Bishop c4, they can move their queen to, let's say, e5, but then I bring my rook to f7. And I have also a check on a6. And I don't analyze d5 because d5 exposes his position. Okay, this is what I didn't check, but I shouldn't. Well, actually I should. What should I do in this position? Well, take with one of my pieces. If I take with the rook, they take there, then I continue with rook f7 check, and they take my rook. So that's why I have to take with the queen. And if they took on c4, I would continue with queen e7. And here I just end up with extra bishop. Why not d5? Good question. Let's discuss. So queen e6, bishop c4, and d5. Well, I think it's just because of this. And the enemy king is too exposed. Also, rook f7 is coming here. So how do they continue? Take. What if they don't take? Well, but how? Because I'm about to play rook f7 if they move their queen too far. So, for example, this move. Then I go there. So this, and then I do this. And again, it's not a mate only one, so I can just simply take the bishop. Well, actually, in this concrete case, I can checkmate on c6. Okay, let's say he goes somewhere else, which is this, but then it's bishop a6. So that's why not d5. Okay, I think it's clear. Let's continue. We're gonna do a few more. By the way, today is the second day of the masterclass of FIDE Master Nikolai Yordanov. It starts in 12 minutes. So he's going to teach how to improve your strategic play. If you follow my announcements, you are likely to attend it. Okay, so king g7 was played. Okay, what should we do? Well, definitely this and queen f6. This is the first that comes to my mind. Why these puzzles are so easy? Of course, they can try to defend with knight f5, but okay, I'm a rook down actually. Okay, no, never mind, it still works. Because if I play h6, they play king here, and then I play queen f6. Then I'm threatening with two checkmates, h7 and queen g7. So knight f5 doesn't make sense, I just checkmate with the pawn. This queen f6, and I'm also threatening with knight g5, which forces the king to go to g8, and then h7 will be a mate. So this, knight g5, and h7 is a mate. Let's do the next one. Knight f3. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that I can take, but maybe it makes more sense to capture this bishop first, because if rook takes, I take on f3, and it's not a checkmate. Okay, then I have to play better. First I take on g2, king goes to h1, and only after that I capture that bishop on d1. Why? Because I'm threatening to take this rook on f1 with a checkmate. If they play bishop d2, then I threaten to take on f3, and checkmate on h2 is unavoidable. So this is the solution. Rook g2. Then I take here, and after knight f3 they cannot avoid a checkmate with rook h2. Capturing the defender. This they attack, but I think we can checkmate here. Yeah, of course, it's just a checkmate in 2 moves. So king goes there, it's queen d5. Who knows if it's possible to increase the strength of these puzzles. Okay, knight f1. Well, of course I solve, not all of my puzzles are solved, but properly, I mean, but almost all of them. So what here, for example? Well, this idea to remaneuver the rook makes sense, but I cannot go to g5, unfortunately. This knight has to cover the h2 square, which means that I can potentially do what? Well, I was thinking about doing this, but I don't see the point because they can just continue with this move. Okay, so what I have? I have this check. Then knight g3. Well, this puzzle is much better. Okay, I have queen g4, and if the king goes, I have rook d5. And I don't think they can stop me from doing this. For example, queen g4, if king goes to the h file, to h1 of course, then a rook d5. Then let's say knight g3. However, after that, what can I do after that? At least I'm able to gain a piece back. But is it the maximum? Well, okay. So after bishop g3, f takes g3, queen g3, and I gain on e3, getting a winning position. So queen g4, knight g3 immediately. But then I just take and still gain. Okay, queen g4 is the solution. What are we talking about? And then I just take on e3. And take another piece. So here I have two knights, and my task is to promote. Because if they somehow capture my pawn, it's a draw. It's a theoretical draw. So I can play this move, and if they take, I can continue with knight c3 or knight a3. Knight c3, for example, why not? And they cannot stop my pawn. They can move their rook there, but then I give a check on e2, and then I push my pawn forward, and because I can always block a check on g1. So knight c3 is the solution. b2, what else can be done? Rook b5. Okay, so you see, people are joining the masterclass of Nikolai Yordanov. I'm running it on my other device. So rook b5, b2. And that is an issue. Okay, that's why I have to start with knight c3 move. And if they do this, then I do that. And there is no rook b3 move. They can check. After which I move my king there, and they still cannot stop it. Oh, it's actually knight f6, knight c3. So g7, they play this. And then they sacrifice, so it's not a good idea. That's why knight c3 first. This is how I cover this square. If, for example, they play this move, so once again, knight f6, rook goes to c8, to f1, I mean, to stop my pawn. Then if I consider g7, they play rook to g1 and sacrifice their rook. If I try to block, now they may take my knight, so it's not a good idea. Okay, then I play this move. Then rook takes, I play this, and the only way to stop is to continue with rook b6, but then I have knight d5 fork. Okay, so this, not knight e4, I mean. So now I have to play knight c6. This is the only move that stops rook b8. And you see, this maneuver is impossible because once the rook reaches c7, it's knight d5. So knight c6, they take, and then I push the pawn forward because after this move I have a fork, and then I promote. Well, this position deserves a little bit more analysis, because I wanted to show you what happens in case if they decide to take. So it's this. Now this move doesn't make much sense. I just play king here. Checking also isn't a good option because I finally escape. And then I promote. Rook here, here, take. So, and this also doesn't make much sense. Here, knight e2, check, king goes there, and then I promote, because this is not a checkmate. Okay, nice. Let's do the last one for today, and meet next weekend. Okay, so what do we have? This one, knight f4 is played. Well, knight f4 simply blunders rook h2 idea, because the queen is now there is an interception, so the queen is blocked. Rook h2, after which they have to take with the king. Then I simply continue with another check, for example this, and they have to take it with the king because it's a double check, and king g2 doesn't make sense, so they have to take it with the king. But then how do I win? Looks like I don't, because I have no pieces left, right? Queen h3, no. Okay, maybe I should start with something else. With something else like bishop g3. Because bishop g3 threatens a mate, which tells them that there is no way to consider a knight takes queen. So bishop g3 first, they cannot take it, then I checkmate on h2. If they take my queen, I also checkmate on h2. So what to look for? Let's look for a counter attack like knight f6, for example. Knight f6, then rook takes f6, queen e7, what else? Then rook goes back. That's it. So bishop g3 is the solution. Now here I cannot move the king because I fall under a discovered attack. So I have to take, they take here, which makes no difference, I think. And in this position I can just continue with rook f7. Now I have to take, and then I have to play this winning position. Okay, guys, I think you enjoyed our puzzle practice today. We are going to do more. So, and I hope that puzzles on chess.com become harder, because right now they are really easy. And well, actually, just tell me one thing. I'm going to record the course, and this time I would like this course to be a workshop, a calculational workshop based on my real games that I recently played. I will explain what I had to calculate and why, and how to calculate it, and what to not calculate if you don't want to waste to spend too much time on it. So what do you think about such a course workshop? Is it a good idea or not? And well, recently I published a course about Magnus Carlsen. However, I think there were just maybe 30 people who enrolled in it, but usually we have about 50 or 100 people. So what do you think? Maybe calculation is a more important topic for you. Instead of learning from Magnus Carlsen, it makes sense for you just to improve your ability to calculate, and you don't need Magnus Carlsen games for this. You can use it. I mean, you can improve it just with some explanation from a good coach. Okay, fine, perfect. So let's finish for today, and see you next weekend. By the way, next weekend there is also a masterclass by FIDE master Pavel Martinov. Of course, I'm going to send an announcement to everyone. See you.